he could do so ain't for me to say, and is living along of another young party." She took some more brandy before she answered. "That's all very well, you duffer," she said, "but how am I to get at him? I tell you I'm afraid of him, and even if I weren't, I haven't a cent to travel with, and if I got there, what am I to do?" "As for being afraid, marm," he answered, "I've told you Lawyer Quest is a long sight more frightened of you than you are of him. Then as for money, why, marm, I'm going down to Boisingham myself by the train that leaves Liverpool Street at 1:30, and that's an hour from now, and it's proud and pleased I should be to take a lady down, and by the means of bringing them as has been in holy matrimony together again. And as to what you should do when you gets there, why, you should just walk up with your marriage lines and say, 'You are my husband, and I call on you to cease living in sin and to take me back,' and if he don't, why then you swears an information, and it's a case of warrant for bigamy." The Tiger chuckled, and then, suddenly seized with suspicion, looked at her visitor sharply. "What do you want me to blow the gaff for?" she said. "You're a leery old hand, you are, for all your simple ways, and you've got some game on, I'll take my Davy." "I a game, I?" answered George, an expression of the deepest pain spreading itself over his ugly features. "No, marm, and when one has wanted to help a friend too. Well, if you think that, and no doubt misfortune has made you suspicious, the best I can do is to bid you good-bye and to wish you well out of your troubles, workhouse and all, marm, which I do according." And he rose from his box with much dignity, politely bowed to the hag on the mattress, and then turning walked towards the door. She sprang up with an oath. "I'll go," she said. "I'll take the change out of him. I'll teach him to let his lawful wife starve on a beggarly pittance. I don't care if he does try to kill me, I'll ruin him." And she stamped upon the floor and screamed, "I'll ruin him, I'll ruin him," presenting such a picture of abandoned evil and wickedness that even George, whose nerves were not finely strung, inwardly shrank from her. "Ah, marm," he said, "no wonder you're put out. When I think of what you've had to suffer, I own it makes my blood go boiling through my veins. But if you are coming, perhaps it would be as well to stop cursing and put your hat on, for we have got to catch the train," and he pointed to a headgear chiefly made of somewhat dilapidated peacock feathers, and an ulster which the bailiffs had either overlooked or left through pity. She put on the hat and cloak, and then going to the hole beneath the board, out of which she said the woman Ellen had stolen her jewellery, she extracted the copy of the certificate of marriage which that lady had not apparently thought worth stealing, and put it in the pocket of her pink silver peignoir. Then George, having first secured the remainder of the bottle of brandy, which he put into his capacious pocket, they started, and finding a hansom, drove to Liverpool Street. Such a spectacle as the Tiger looked upon the platform, George was wont in after days to declare he never did see, but it can easily be imagined that a fierce, dissolute, hungry-looking woman with half-dyed hair, who had drunk as much as was good for her, dressed in a hat made of peacock feathers, dirty white shoes, an ulster with some buttons off, and a gorgeous but filthy pink silk tea gown, presented a sufficiently curious appearance, especially when contrasted with her companion, the sober and melancholy-looking George, who was arrayed in his pepper and salt Sunday suit. So curious indeed was their aspect that the people loitering about the platform collected round them, and George, who was heartily ashamed of the position, was thankful enough when once the train started. He had from his motives of economy taken her a third-class ticket, and at this she grumbled, saying that she was accustomed to travel like a lady should, first, but he appeased her with the brandy bottle. All the journey through he talked to her about her wrongs, till at last, what between the liquor and his artful incitements, she was inflamed into a condition of savage fury against Mr. Quest. When once she got to this point, he would let her have no more brandy, seeing that she was now ripe for his purpose, which was, of course, to use her to ruin the man who had ruined the house he served. Mr. Quest, sitting in state as clerk to the magistrates assembled in quarter sessions at the session house in Boisingham, little guessed that the sword at whose shadow he had trembled all these years was even now falling on his head, or that the hand that kept the hair that held it was that of the stupid bumpkin whose warning he had despised. Chapter 34